This video is about forming questions in Spanish, preguntas en español. One way we form questions in both English and Spanish is to raise the pitch of our voice at the end of a statement. This is called voice intonation. There's a museum at Chapultepec. Hay un museo en Chapultepec. This is an example of voice intonation. I just made the statement sound like a question. Another way to form questions is to use tag words like right, isn't he, isn't she, aren't you? You can do this in Spanish also. The two most common tag words are verdad and no. Now, it really doesn't matter which one you use, but verdad is pretty much like saying right, and no is a lot like saying isn't he, isn't she, isn't it, aren't you, aren't we, or aren't they. John is going to the cafe, isn't he? Juan va al café, no? His name is Phil, right? Se llama Felipe, ¿verdad? Another way to ask a question in English is to begin with question markers like do, does, did. And you can even make these negative by using don't, doesn't, and didn't. Do you study music? But there's no direct Spanish translation to these question markers. Spanish speakers don't have a word or words to put at the beginning to form a question. There are words in Spanish for do, does, and did, but they aren't used to form questions. Instead, Spanish has something called inversion, which we sometimes use in English. Inversion is placing the subject of a question after the action, whereas in a statement, the subject comes before an action. In English, we often do inversion with the verb to be, like am, is, are, was, and were, and the verb to have, like have, has, and had. Is Eva at school? In Spanish, that's ¿Está Eva en la escuela? Now remember, there are no question markers in Spanish, so does Tommy speak Spanish is probably best translated as ¿Habla Tommy español? In Spanish, we've just put the subject Tommy after the action habla. This is another example of inversion in Spanish. Now listen to these Spanish questions which begin with question words. ¿Cómo está usted hoy? How are you today? ¿Cuándo es tu clase mañana? When is your class tomorrow? The word order in Spanish matches up perfectly with English. That's because in English we used forms of the verb be, are, and is. Now consider this example. ¿Por qué estudia Elena inglés? Why does Elena study English? It doesn't sound right in English to say, why studies Elena English? But that's still how you put the order of the words in Spanish. You have to have a question word if there is one, then the verb, then the subject, and then the rest of the sentence. Now it's your turn. I'm going to give you some Spanish words which will form a question if you put them in the right order. See if you can form a Spanish question from the words. After 3 seconds, I'll give you the answer, but you'll probably need more than 3 seconds to figure out your answer. So pause the video as you need to. Here we go. ¿Dónde están ellos? Where are they? ¿Quién está en el banco? Who is at the bank? ¿Qué llevas tú al restaurante? What are you wearing to the restaurant? Well, that's enough for this video. Let me know in class how well you did. Thanks for watching.